Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Nun Tes Amud Beis, 9 lines from the bottom. The Gemara continues its discussion of various things, ornaments and jewelry that a woman can either go out with or cannot go out with on Shabbos. Most recently, the Gemara identifies kamra as a ornamented belt that anoshim chashuvim would go out with, described like the klila that was worn across the forehead of a woman, as being either a fabric that has various studded jewels on it, or it's a belt that's completely made out of gold or silver. And Gemara says that a regular woman is considered to be a tachshit for her, and she can go out with it. And we're not worried that a woman will take it off to show her friend because it's holding up her garments. One more line in regards to the subject of belts. Omar Rav Ashi, Hai Risuka. This Risuka, the wide belt, Iisle Mafrichiyosa Shari, V'iloi Osir. Rav Ashi rules if this wide belt has various attachments, small ritzuos that can tie it down, then indeed it's permissible for a woman to go out with such a belt on Shabbos. However, if it does not have these straps to tie it down, then it will be also because a wide belt often becomes loosened easily, whereby she may carry it Dalet Amos in the Rishus Harabim. The Gemara now goes on to the next item on the list in the Mishnah, V'lo bekatla. A woman cannot go out with a katla. Ask the Gemara, my katla, what is a katla? Says the Gemara, menakta pari. Literally it means that which catches breadcrumbs. It refers to an ornamented bib that was considered to be a chashiv ornament that a woman would wear that was studded with gold, and it also had a choker that would cause the skin around her neck to then be pulled up and show that her face is more full and fleshy. Nizamim. Gemara says that which a woman cannot go out with is nizmei ha'af, nose rings. The custom was to wear nose rings at the time. This comes to exclude earrings. Earrings, since the hair was tied down and covering up the ears, it would be hard and very difficult for a person to then access her own earrings, and therefore she wouldn't then take off her earrings to show her friend, and that's permissible therefore to wear earrings in the Rishus Harabim. V'loi betabas she'ein alea chosim. The Mishnah now goes on to say, and she cannot go out with a ring that doesn't have a chosim, because she may take it off and show her friend, and again walk Dalet Amos in the Rishus Harabim. The Gemara makes a diuk. Hayesh alea chosim chayeves. But if it had a chosim, it was a signet ring, then she would be chayev chatos, because this would be a masui. Alma lav tachshithu. Obviously, a signet ring is not a tachshit. Ask the Gemara from the following Mishnah in Maseches Kelim Raminu. Tachshite noshim tmeim. The jewelry of women are mekabel tuma. Ve'elu hen tachshite noshim. And the following are a list of various jewelry of a woman. Katlois, chokers, nizamim, earrings, vitabos, rings, vitabas be'ein sheyesh aleh choisem, be'ein she'ein aleh choisem. Rings that are either a signet ring that have a choisem, or that do not have a choisem. V'nizmei ha'af, and nose rings. So included in this list in Maseches Kelim is a signet ring. So you see from here, not like our Mishnah, because here this Mishnah Maseches Kelim says it's considered to be a tachshit, whereas on our Mishnah we said only a regular ring is a problem midirabbanan to go out with, because she might take it off and show her friend. But the diuk is that if it was a signet ring, certainly she not go out with it, because it's considered to be a masui. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Zera lo kasha, it's not a difficulty. Ha Rabbi Nechemia ha Rabbanon. Our Mishnah that says that a signet ring, a woman cannot go out with it because she'll be chayiv chatas because it's a masui, is Rabbi Nechemia. Whereas this Mishnah in Maseches Kelim that says a signet ring is a tachshit, that is according to the opinion of the Rabbanon, as follows. The Tanya, it says in the Brisa, He shel mateches v'choisma shel almoig tmeya. In regards to that which is mekabel tuma, the halacha is that if it's pshute kli eitz, if it's a kli eitz that doesn't have a receptacle, it's not mekabel tuma. Whereas a mateches, a pshute kli mateches, that's made out of some sort of metal, even if it does not have a kli kibul, will also mekabel tuma. So it says over here that a ring that is made out of metal, that has a signet made out of almoig. Almoig is a form of an eitz. Many mefarshim explain it to be coral reef, that which is in the water, of course, is soft, but when it's taken out of the water and it comes in contact with the air, it becomes very hard. And that was used as a signet, as the choisim. So it says over here in the Reisha that if the metal ring, even though it has a signet of a almoig, it will mekabel tuma, because the significance of the ring is the ring itself, not the choisim. And vice versa, almoig shel mateches tahara. But if it was the ring itself was made out of the almoig, though the choisim is made out of mateches, so it will not be mekabel tuma because the ikar ring is the almoig. Rabbi Nechemia says in the latter case, where the almoig is the ring, and the choisma, the choisim, the signet is made out of metal, then it'll become mekabel tuma because the ikar is the choisim. Shahayir Rabbi Nechemia oimer betabas holach achar choisma. Rabbi Nechemia's opinion that in regards to a ring, the ikar part that you go after to be mekabel tuma or not is the choisim. Similarly, he says, be'ol holach achar sam loinov. When you have an ol that goes around the neck of the shore, and it's a wooden ol, and it has two big pegs that are holding it together around the head, the neck of the shore. So he says that you go after the salmonov, those pegs that are metal, and therefore they're mekabel tuma, even though the part of the wood is the old, but it goes after the salmonov, and that chibur makes it so it's entirely mekabel tuma. Bekoilov halach achar masmeroisov, that which is a wooden pillar that is stuck into the ground, that has pegs that are attached to it, where a salesman would hang, let's say, various belts and other things to sell with. So although the koilov is made out of wood and itself is not going to mekabel tuma, but because he goes after the masmeroisov, he goes after the pegs or the nails that are inside, holding up the things that he wants to sell, then that will mekabel tuma. Besulam, in regards to a ladder, holach achar shlivoisov, even if the ladder itself is wooden, it has wooden parallel, but the steps of the ladder are made out of mateches, some sort of metal, then it will mekabel tuma. Be'arsa, in regards to an arsa, which is a balance. So you have, let's say, the cups that are held by the shal shiros, they're called by chains. Those chains, of course, are metal, but the entire frame of the moznayim, of the balance, is made out of wood. So he rules that you holech achar shal shloisov, even though the balance itself is made out of wood, but since the things that are holding the cups that are in balance are the metal chains, that you go after the metal chains, it's mekabel tuma. The chachamim omrim, whereas the chachamim argue, they say hakol holach achar hamaimid. In all of these cases, you go after the maimid, and in all these cases that were described, that all those things are wood, therefore they will not be mekabel tuma. Therefore, according to Rabbi Zeira, it comes out that our Mishnah is indeed Rabbi Nechemia, because Rabbi Nechemia says that you go after the choisim, and since the choisim is not going to be a tachshit, whereby a woman, if she were to go out with a signet ring, she would be chayev chatos. The Gemara now brings a second yishuv to this apparent stira. Rava Omar Litzdodim Ketoni. Rava says it's teaching Litzdodim as follows. Yesh aleh choisam de tachshit de ish. Ein aleh choisam tachshit isha. In other words, Rava explains the Mishnah Masechet Kelim is not going back on the original statement Eilu tachshite noshim, but rather is saying that there are two different types of tabos. There's one tabos that is a tabas of an ish, and that's a signet ring. And there's another tabas of a woman that is not a signet ring. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omar Tuma Ashabis Karamis. He's giving a third yishuv to this apparent stira. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says as follows: that you're asking from Maseches Kelim, which is dealing with Tuma, onto our mission, which is dealing with Hilchos Shabbos. Tuma Kli Maise Omer Achmona v'Klihu. Tuma is a different criteria than it is with Hilchos Shabbos. Tuma, the criteria is Kli Maise, as the pasuk says, v'Klihu, and it is indeed a Kli, and therefore it's Mekabel Tuma. Whereas the criterion for Shabbos is Shabbos Mishum Masui Omer Achmona. Shabbos says if it's a Masui, then you cannot go out with it. Ein aleh choisem tachshit. Yesh aleh choisem Masui. If it's something that is a tachshit, then one can go out with it, unless the Rabbanan were goyzer for a different reason. But it's considered to be a tachshit, and therefore Hilchos Shabbos mi'ikar adim midiraisa you could go out. Whereas if it does have a choisem, then it's a masui, and there midiraisa one cannot go out with. So it comes out that we have three different yishuvim to the stira that we brought. First yishuv was that Rabbi Zera said that our Mishnah is a free Rabbi Nechemya that says you go after the choisim, and therefore, of course, a signet ring is a masui. The second yishuv was Rava that says that our Mishnah in Maseches Kelim was not talking about tachshite nashim when it said a tabah sheyesh aleh choisim. They were saying that a man's ring has a choisim, is a signet ring. And the third yishuv was talking about that our criterion for Hilchos Shabbos is masui, whereas the criterion for Tuma is whether it's a kli or not. And therefore, in our Mishnah, when it comes to a signet ring, it's considered to be a masui, and therefore, midiraisa, it would be chayev chatos. Says the Gemara, the next on the list of the Mishnah of machat she'ena nekuva, and a machat that does not have a hole at the end of it, one cannot go out with it on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Lamai Chazia, if it doesn't have indeed a hole in it, so Lamai Chazia, what is it fitting for? In other words, it should be Chayev Chatos to go out with such a machat. Omer Rav Yosef, Hoyel v'isha oigeres bo sa'aro. Rav Yosef says, since a woman, she takes the additional hairs that are outside of her mitpachas, that are outside of what she's covering her hair with, and that come out, she then wraps it, she rolls it into the needle, and she then puts the needle into that matpachas. Omale abaye v'tehave kibiris tahara v'tishtari. If this indeed is the usage of this needle, then indeed it should be mutter, because just like if one has stockings, and in order to hold up the stockings, one puts some sort of rounded band to hold up the stockings, so that is considered to be a malbush because it's assisting that which is now being worn by the woman in order to be worn. So too over here, this is considered to be a malbush, since this is going to then take the hairs that she doesn't want to show and can be put into the mitpachas. So why should it be osir altogether? Answers the Gemara, Ella, you're right, Tirgum of Rav Ada Nirsho Kamed Rav Yosef, Hoyel v'isha cholekes b'sa'ara. We're talking about a needle that a woman parts her hair with. Ask the Gemara, B'Shabbos l'may chazia. On Shabbos, one cannot part their hair because it's likely she will then be toilesh some of her hairs, and that'll be an isid deraisa of goizes. Omerove tas shel zav yesh la al roisha. There's on the head a piece of gold that's used as an ornament. Bechol cholka basara. During the week, they take the sharp end to separate their hair. B'Shabbos menichasa kinege padachto. And on Shabbos, they put it into the mitpachas so that the end shows this golden piece, which is an ornament, to then be beautified on Shabbos with. The Gemara now brings another Mishnah, Lo yetze ha'ish b'sandal ha'mesumar. Now the Mishnah turns to a man and says what a man cannot go out with on Shabbos. The first thing is a sandal ha'mesumar, a type of sandal that had various nails that were banged into it. The Gemara is going to explain why is that also, after all, if it is a sandal, it's a malbush, and therefore should be mutter. V'lo biyochid bizman she'ein beragloi makkah. And one cannot go out with a shoe on one foot if the other foot does not have a shoe on it, unless the other foot that doesn't have a shoe on it has a wound, and that's why he's not wearing it. Otherwise, it's usher, either because a person will suspect him that he's carrying the other shoe, or because people will make fun of him that he's only wearing one shoe, and thereby he's likely to take off that shoe and carry it daled amas n'meshus harabim. So that would be also, again, for a person to go out with one shoe on one foot without a shoe on the other foot, providing that he doesn't have a wound. V'loi bat tefillin, and he cannot go out with his tefillin. Now there's a machloikis tanoim whether tefillin can be worn on Shabbos altogether. And one opinion says that tefillin is not to be worn on Shabbos. So if it's not to be worn on Shabbos, that's understood why a person cannot go out with tefillin on Shabbos. And if it is okay to wear tefillin on Shabbos, according to the other Tana, that a person who wears tefillin on Shabbos, if he has to then go to the restroom, he might have to take off the tefillin and walk daled amos n'meshus harabim. So therefore, he cannot go out not with a tefillin shel biyad or a tefillin shel rosh. The Mishnah goes on to say, "V'lo bekameya bizman she'ein min hamumche." A person cannot go out with a kameya. We explain a kameya usually has shemos that are written in a parchment that are put into a leather pouch worn around the neck of a person to ward off the ayin hara or for refuah purposes. And here it says if it's not from a mumcha, somebody who has experience making these types of kamiyas, so then he cannot go out with it. As opposed to if it was made by somebody who was a mumcha, then it's considered to be a tachshit. Veloy or malbush, veloy b'shiryoin, velo b'kaste, velo b'magafoyim. And a person cannot go out with armored types of an armor, or a helmet, or a metal types of boots that normally a person goes out to war with, to battle with, and therefore a person might see him going out thinking that he's going out to battle, and therefore he cannot go out with any of these things. V'im yotza, however, the Mishnah says in all these cases, ein chayev chatos. All of these things are considered to be a form of a malbush. Midia araisa would be mutter. It's only midia rabbanon that the Chachamim said is prohibited.